said, no, police, don't drop the knife. And he was saying, I'm gonna kill her, I'm gonna kill her.
Caller saying he shot someone. There's a 34-year-old female that got stabbed by someone, and then he shot him.
I suspected, I had a feeling that there was a lot more to what met the eye that morning.
She and the husband then burst into the bedroom with guns, pretending to be surprised.
The double murder of Christine Banfield and Joseph Ryan absolutely stumped investigators for a long time. As soon as they stepped into the scene, they just knew that something about the situation was wrong, and the story they were getting just wasn't adding up. Nothing could have prepared them for the tangled web they were about to unravel. The more information they uncovered, the more confusing this case got, until everything came together and created a very clear but disturbing picture of what truly happened. With that being said, let's get into the case. 37-year-old Christine Banfield was married to then 38-year-old Brendan Banfield, and together they shared a 4-year-old daughter named Valerie. The family of 3 lived in a beautiful $1 million home in Fairfax, Virginia. Brendan worked as an IRS criminal special agent, while Christine worked as a registered nurse. She was described as being a dedicated nurse who did everything she could to provide the best possible care for her patients. She was a fierce patient advocate and went above and beyond expectations at work. Those who knew Christine described her as bubbly, intelligent, and compassionate. She was also known to be an incredible mother to little Valerie. Friends recall how when Valerie was learning to ride her bike, Christine absolutely lit up and was so excited to share her baby's accomplishment. By August of 2021, Christine and Brendan ended up hiring a live-in au pair, 22-year-old Juliana Perez Magalhães, who was originally from Brazil. For those of you who do not know, an au pair is usually a young adult from another country who will come live with the family on a legal visa for up to 2 years. During that time, they will provide childcare in exchange for payment, room and board, and of course, the chance to get U.S. citizenship. Some sources describe that a nanny is someone who is more like an employee who comes in and helps care for a child for a salary. On the other hand, an au pair lives there and sort of integrates into the family. They eat meals with the family, they help clean up around the house, and of course, they become like family to the child they're helping care for. So in the home, we have Christine, Brendan, and Valerie, as well as Juliana, who lived there, helping to take care of Valerie. By February 24, 2023, at 7:50 a.m., 911 received a call from a home on Stablebrook Way in Fairfax. The call was quickly disconnected after only a few seconds, most likely because the person on the other end hung up. So because the call was coming from a cell phone and they weren't on the line very long, it was impossible to tell exactly where the call was coming from. It's been reported differently depending on what source you see, but I believe around 10 to 15 minutes later, 911 received another call from the same area. This time, the person on the other end was a woman who was saying that her friend was hurt. Just after the woman spoke, a man quickly grabbed the phone and said that he shot a man in his home because he caught this man stabbing his wife. In the background of the call, the 911 dispatcher heard what sounded like someone groaning in the background. Police were dispatched right away, arriving to the home by 8:13 a.m. Officers were first met with Juliana, the family's au pair, who was the one who placed that 911 call, as well as Brendan Banfield, who was the one who spoke with the dispatcher saying that his wife had been stabbed. Officers noted that Juliana was left unharmed, while Brendan had suffered some sort of injury to his leg. Brendan's then 4-year-old daughter, Valerie, was also at the scene and she was in the basement, but thankfully she was unharmed. At the time, an officer stayed outside and spoke with Juliana and Brendan while other officers went inside to figure out exactly what was going on. Upon entering the house, officers noted that there was no sign of forced entry into the home. They went to an upstairs bedroom where they found Christine. She was in critical condition, severely injured after having been stabbed multiple times to her chest and torso. But Christine wasn't the only victim. Lying next to her was the body of then 39-year-old Joseph Nathan Ryan, who was already dead after suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. Upon later examination, it was determined that Joseph had been shot twice by 2 different guns. He was shot once in the head and once in the chest, and it appeared that the shot to his chest was actually the one that took his life. Now, at the time that she was found, Christine was still alive after being stabbed numerous times. However, she was rushed to the hospital, and she later died of her injuries. Brendan was also taken to the hospital for his minor leg injury, where he fully recovered. So now going back just a bit, back to when police first arrived to the scene. Obviously, this whole situation was very strange, chaotic, and confusing. Law enforcement had no idea what to make of any of this. Of course, the first thing officers did was speak with Juliana, who was the first person they found on scene. This interaction was caught on police body cam, which has been made public, so I will share some of that video as we go. The video shows officers first arriving to the home, asking Juliana who shot who. She then leads officers into the basement to grab Valerie to get her out of the home.
Hey, Paul, or Jose, you got that. You got that. I need to watch out for that.
There's a dog back there. So somebody's outside. Someone's outside in the back?
In the back?
There's a dog in the back.
Anybody else outside? Who else is outside?
Nobody outside.
Anybody over here?
And here.
Here, stay here. Man.
Hey,
Stay right here.
who is the shooter?
Who shot who?
Brendan, he's an officer.
I got a blowout kit if you need it.
Bring it up.
Is there anyone else in the house? Any kids in the house? Okay.
Yeah, if you want. I'll hold down here.
Okay.
Hey, help
Man,
me.
can you come down with me?
Anybody else have a blowout kit? She's breathing. She's got a lot of stab wounds. I think Zach just saying that.
We're getting the ambulance here now.
My host kid is downstairs.
Okay.
I'm in here.
How old's your host kid?
She's 4.5.
4.5? Where is she?
I need to talk to her. She doesn't know anything. What's
Can we get her and we'll go outside?
I'm gonna get her.
Where do we look?
She's grabbing their 4-year-old. We're gonna go outside.
Okay, perfect.
She's quiet, please.
It's okay. Yeah.
She's just 4.5.
I know this is hard. Let's get her outside, and then I need to get some information from you.
Hi. Hi.
Hey, I'm Officer Bell. Nice to meet you. Do you want to go outside with us?
We need to go outside, okay?
Let's go.
Come here. Come here. I'm gonna take this out.
Yeah, whatever you need to do. What's your name?
Juliana.
All right, let's get outside, okay? It's okay. Just breathe, okay? Okay, let's go out this way.
After this, Juliana told officers what she knew about that morning. She told officers that at around 7 a.m. that morning, she and Valerie headed out of the home to go to the local zoo. But after leaving, they had to turn around because she realized she forgot to grab their lunches. Once she returned home, though, she saw an unfamiliar car parked outside of the home and then saw a man carrying a bag enter the home. This gave her a really bad feeling, so she immediately called Christine to see who it could be, but Christine didn't answer. She then called Brendan, who did answer, telling her that he was having breakfast at McDonald's. She told him what she saw, so he immediately headed back home. Juliana waited in the car until Brendan got there, and then the two went inside together. Once entering the home, Juliana immediately took Valerie downstairs into the basement, but once in the basement, she heard a loud commotion going on upstairs, so she left Valerie in the basement and went upstairs to see what was going on. Once upstairs, she heard Brendan screaming, "Drop the knife," and then heard the sound of flesh being struck. That's how she worded it. She then explained that Brendan had caught his wife in the bedroom naked with another man who started stabbing her. Like I said, Brendan was an IRS special investigator, so he grabbed his service weapon and shot the man who he caught stabbing his wife. As that was happening, Brendan yelled for Juliana to grab a second gun from the bathroom, giving her the code to the safe it was locked in. She grabbed the gun, ran to the bedroom, where she too fired a round at the man, shooting him in the chest, killing him. Juliana admitted that the man was already lying on the ground when she shot him, but emphasized that she only did this because she was acting in self-defense to protect this family.
Good. Still breathing.
Sorry?
Still breathing.
Still breathing?
Hey.
Do you want me to put her to watch a show or something?
If you just want to tell me quickly what happened,
I don't know what happened. Everything happened too fast. I was going to take her to the zoo this morning.
Can you go with Officer Battani really quick?
Why don't you come with us?
Yeah.
He has some stickers for you.
I was going to take her to the zoo this morning, and then I forgot the lunch we were going to bring. I turned around and came back here, and then I saw this car. This is her car.
You don't know who that? Do you know who the person is?
I have no idea. And then I saw his car, called her to see what's going on because it's early in the morning, like the people was here. And then it was straight to voicemail. I called Brendan, it's her husband. He's up there. I told him, I see a strange car, but I don't know who is that. Can you please come here? I'm scared. I was in the car. And then he came here, and then we went inside. The guy, I don't know who he is, he was spanking her. I was just here.
Were you here when it happened, or did you walk up in there and that's how they were?
Yeah, he went upstairs first, and then I went to see what is going on. I left the basement, and then when I went upstairs, Brendan was saying, "Police, drop the knife."
So, Brendan's a police officer.
Yeah, he's an officer.
Is he with Fairfax?
No.
Where is he an officer?
I don't know. I think it's he was officer in Vienna.
Vienna?
Yeah.
Okay. 1 second.
I'm gonna get.
Okay.
Do you need anything else right now?
Not right now. The guy who shot is they think a Vienna police officer. So we got to think about that. That car, we don't know who. That's the guy who came up here that started the issue. This car is the outside guy, the silver car.
These two.
So this is their car. That is the guy who came here.
Okay.
And then it was because they were yelling at each other. He was saying like, drop the. I'm sorry, my first language is not English.
No, you're doing really well.
He was saying drop the.
The knife or the gun?
The gun. Yeah, and Brendan said, no, police, don't drop the knife. And then he was saying, I'm gonna kill her. And I don't know, he started stabbing her. I think Brendan shot him, and he asked me help to shoot him too because...
It's okay. You don't have to get it all out right now.
I never saw her before. Like,
you didn't see the girl before either?
No,
so the guy and the girl you don't know?
She's my boss.
Okay.
But I never seen it before. Like, it's a lot of blood.
Okay.
In the body cam footage, it's clear that Juliana is shaken up. She just witnessed something horrific, and at the time she was talking to officers, she really hadn't had any time to process what happened. After speaking with Juliana, officers then spoke with Brendan, who told his side of the story. He said that he was out that morning getting breakfast at McDonald's. He said he got the call from Juliana, so he returned home and they went inside together. Juliana went downstairs while he went upstairs. He said that once upstairs, he witnessed the man holding a knife up to his wife's throat while she was naked. He then used his service weapon to shoot the man, striking him right near his eyebrow. He admitted that he instructed Juliana to grab the other gun, which was a Glock located in the bathroom. She did just that, then came back and landed the fatal shot to his chest. At this point, police knew that they needed to continue their investigation. This sounded like such a wild, crazy story that almost felt too much like a movie plot. As we heard, both Brendan and Juliana had just left the home right before this Joseph Ryan guy showed up. He goes in somehow knowing that everyone in the home is gone except Christine. Maybe there was an affair going on between them and she texted him when to come over. We don't know at this point. But for whatever reason, he came over, held a knife to her throat, and then I guess somehow Brendan and Juliana waited long enough for him to start stabbing her repeatedly before they jumped into action and shot him. We don't know if he had any motive. We don't know what, if any, relationship he even had to Christine, and we don't know why Brendan and Juliana reacted the way they did. And the only witnesses to this whole thing are the people who are responsible for this man's death. It just was not adding up. Months passed as police continued their investigation. During that time, both Juliana and Brendan were free to continue their lives, living in the home where 2 people had been murdered. Finally, though, by October 13th, 2023, police felt that they had enough to arrest Juliana on suspicion of murder. They also obtained a search warrant to search within that home at that time. So they returned to the home to arrest her, and when they did, they found even more evidence that pointed them in a completely new direction. This whole story the 2 of them gave suddenly didn't seem truthful at all. Something else was going on here. When officers went inside the home to apprehend Juliana and conduct their search, they found that she had moved into the master bedroom with Brendan. Just 8 months after his wife is dead, he moves the au pair into his bedroom. Inside that bedroom, Juliana's clothes were hanging up in the closet. Her lingerie was thrown around the bed. There were numerous framed photos scattered all around of Brendan and Juliana together. It was clear that the 2 were now in a relationship. The big question investigators now had was, did this relationship start before Christine and Joseph's death? And could this have been the true motive? Turns out there was evidence that there was a secret affair, and this could be the real reason for why this all went down. Investigators believe that Juliana and Brendan had started their secret affair all the way back in August of 2022, 6 months before Christine and Joseph's murders. Investigators found evidence that the couple had been on multiple romantic trips together during that time, one of which was to New York, where they took a bunch of pictures together looking like a couple. There had also been multiple other women who came forward to investigators, all who said that Brendan had been involved in multiple other affairs with them. One of these women even said that Brendan promised to leave his wife for her, once saying that things would be easier if his wife was just out of the picture. Then, investigators found that just 2 months before Christine's death, Brendan and Juliana were seen on surveillance going to a shooting range together. A few weeks after going to the shooting range, Brendan returned to that range, purchasing the same Glock that would later be used to shoot Christine. Then, just days before the murders, both Juliana and Brendan got new cell phones, which were the phones they used to call each other on the morning of the murders. So now we know that there was this affair going on. Other women said that he wanted Christine out of the picture. And now him and Juliana go to the shooting range and buy a gun just weeks before this happens. Kind of a lot to be a coincidence. In addition to the investigation into this love triangle, obviously investigators needed to figure out how Joseph Ryan fit into it all. It came out that 39-year-old Joseph Ryan had actually once worked for Brendan, but he had been fired. So there was that initial connection. However, multiple witnesses who knew Joseph said that he was never known to be violent. He didn't have a criminal record and had never laid his hands on a woman in his life. So why all of a sudden was he holding a knife to Christine's throat? Well, investigators were able to examine Joseph's cell phone, and they found that he had been a member of the website FetLife, which is a website for people interested in meeting up for more kinky, fetishy sexual practices. On his profile, they found that Joseph had been chatting with a profile that used a photo of Christine for months. The 2 exchanged many messages, agreeing to the kind of sex they wanted to have, and ultimately planning to meet up at her home. So that is why he was at her home that day. However, those who knew Christine best read those messages, and they just felt that it did not sound like her at all. Now, of course, even those closest to you might not know that side of you. Some people are really kinky and dirty with their sexual partners while they act completely normally with their friends and family. They'd never know how you act in the bedroom. However, I do feel like at least most women will give small details into their sex lives with their closest friends. So I feel like there would have been at least someone who would have at least known that she was talking to other people on some sort of website. But even if no one knew about that part, you don't completely change the way you type, even when you're sending freaky messages. Some people usually speak or text in certain patterns, have certain mannerisms when they talk. So I do think if those closest to her felt like she didn't type those messages, I think there's something to that. That being said, the theory is that Christine wasn't actually the one on the website, but it was someone posing as her. Possibly Brendan, possibly Juliana. As all of this information was being uncovered, Juliana was waiting in jail after being charged with second-degree murder and using a firearm in the commission of a felony. By April of 2024, she went in front of a grand jury where Brendan had been subpoenaed to testify. At the hearing, he was asked numerous questions in relation to an affair between the two, with Juliana's lawyer referring to her as his live-in girlfriend and lover. They asked him about the gun he purchased and why he bought it at the time he did. They asked about his connection to Joseph. However, Brendan pretty much refused to talk, and he pled the fifth to almost every question he was asked. After hearing the evidence presented, which was pretty much everything we've discussed up to this point, a grand jury did indict Juliana on her charges of second-degree murder. Her trial was set to take place in late 2024. After that, the investigation trucked on because still, investigators just didn't have all the answers they needed. Now, a forensic examination was done on the crime scene, and finally, by around September of this year, the results were revealed. According to experts in bloodstain pattern analysis, it appeared that the bodies had actually been moved and repositioned after they were fatally wounded. It also stated that Joseph's arms had been moved and smeared with Christine's blood. Based on this, investigators believed that the scene had been staged. They were both brutally attacked, and then their bodies were moved to make the scene fit a certain narrative. This was the evidence that served as the final nail in Brendan's coffin. Finally, after this report came out in September of this year, Brendan Banfield was arrested and charged with aggravated murder. He was indicted on these charges by a grand jury, and he was denied bail.
Tonight, a Virginia husband charged in a gruesome double murder, accused of plotting with the family's au pair to kill his wife. Fairfax County Police taking Brendan Banfield into custody. A year and a half after his wife, Christine Banfield, was found stabbed to death in the family's home, and another man, Joseph Ryan, was found shot nearby.
Caller saying he shot someone. There's a 34-year-old female that got stabbed by someone, and then he shot him.
The au pair, Juliana Perez Magalhães of Brazil, told police she and Brendan found Ryan attacking Christine in a bedroom, and that Brendan, a law enforcement officer for the Internal Revenue Service, shot and mortally wounded the man mid-attack. But investigators say for months they believed there was more to the story.
I suspected, I had a feeling that there was a lot more to what met the eye that morning. And certainly it has taken a road 570 days later where we are finally in a position to announce that 2 persons are being charged and held responsible.
8 months after the killings, police arrested Magalhães, accusing her of firing the shot that killed Ryan after a forensic analysis of the scene. Despite the arrest, police say their investigation still had unanswered questions, including victim Joseph Ryan's connection to Christine Banfield. A search of the family's computer revealed an online profile in Christine's name on a fetish sex website, according to prosecutors, as well as communication on the site with Ryan. But the way in which the messages were written didn't seem as though they'd come from Christine, and police say they believe it was someone else communicating with Ryan. A further search of the home just before the au pair's arrest also turned up evidence of an affair between the husband and the au pair, prosecutors say, including this framed photo of Brendan Banfield and Magalhães. Prosecutors now say they believe it was all an elaborate plot to eliminate Christine so Brendan and Magalhães could be free to be together.
anything to say about your wife's death?
Brendan Banfield's arrest on charges of aggravated murder and use of a firearm, just the next step in potentially proving that theory.
We're not finished yet. We still know we have more work to do, but I can tell you that this case has been something that's been on my mind. I know it's been on the chief's mind, my prosecutor's minds, since the day it happened.
With both Brendan and Juliana in jail, there were multiple times in which they communicated with one another, as well as with Brendan's mother, who was funding Juliana's defense. Of course, all the communications were monitored, so we have an idea of what was discussed. During one call, investigators said that Brendan's mother said something like, "You know what happens to snitches in jail, right?" And then in another call to Brendan, Juliana said, "I hope you're not just staying with me because you're afraid I'll turn against you." We don't know any further details of these conversations because they have not been released to the public, but clearly there seems to be something going on here. But then, in yet another twist in this case, just last month in October, Juliana actually decided to cooperate with investigators in exchange for a plea deal. Just weeks before she was scheduled to go on trial for second-degree murder, Juliana pleaded guilty to charges of manslaughter and her firearm charges were dropped. She apparently admitted to officers that she and Brendan planned the murder of Christine for months to get her out of the picture. She said that she helped Brendan make that profile on the fetish website on Christine's computer in order to lure Joseph into their home. They messaged Joseph for multiple weeks, even calling him sometimes, with Juliana speaking on the phone, pretending to be Christine. In the messages, they made it sound like Christine had a violence fetish, so they got him to bring a knife to use while they were having sex. They did this so that Juliana and Brendan can make it seem like they were just killing some predator who was there to hurt Christine. She said that Brendan brought her to the gun range to practice shooting before buying the firearm that they would use. Before that point, Juliana said that she didn't think Brendan would actually go through with the plan to kill Christine. But after buying the gun, she knew he was serious. At one point, she told him that she didn't want to do it anymore, but he told her it was too late for her to back out. By the morning of the 24th, Joseph arrived to the home as planned, but Brendan and Juliana were both still home. They put Valerie in the basement before following Joseph into the room. There, he shot Joseph in the head before Juliana shot him again in the chest. Then, Brendan stabbed his wife to death and repositioned their bodies to fit the story they were about to tell. After this, Juliana called 911 to report that there had been some mysterious intruder who was hurting Christine. The two went on with their alleged relationship and probably thought that they got away with it for some time. But then, Juliana was arrested. She stayed quiet, probably in hopes that she would still be with Brendan through all of this. He was probably supporting her, feeling like he got away with it, so he would happily pretend to still be interested in Juliana after her arrest. But a year later, he too was arrested, and the wall started closing in. And to me, I think Juliana decided to speak with investigators and spill the tea before Brendan got the chance to turn it around on her. And good for her, honestly.
Today in court, the au pair told prosecutors she and the husband, Brendan Banfield, used a fetish website to lure a stranger to the house, Joseph Ryan. Prosecutors say Ryan believed he was going there to meet the wife, Christine Banfield, for a consensual sexual encounter where he would tie her down and use a knife to cut off her clothes. Christine had no idea. According to prosecutors, Ryan showed up to the house and began carrying out what he thought was the agreed-upon plan, holding Christine down at knife point. The au pair told prosecutors she and the husband then burst into the bedroom with guns, pretending to be surprised, as if they hadn't set the whole thing up. According to the au pair, the husband, Brendan Banfield, called out police because he worked as a federal agent, then shot Joseph Ryan using his service weapon. Banfield then allegedly stabbed and killed his wife, Christine. The au pair says she shot Joseph Ryan, too, because he was still moving. He died on scene.
Today's agreement marks a significant step forward in this case, and it is an important development in our pursuit of justice for the victims and their families.
Prosecutors previously showed pictures in court of the au pair and husband together and the au pair at a gun range. She later told prosecutors she didn't want to go through with the murder plot, but Brendan Banfield allegedly told her it was too late to back out. He was arrested last month and charged with the murder of his wife and Joseph Ryan.
Now at this point, investigators have said that they can't reveal any further information because the trial against Brendan is still pending. So as of right now, everything I've told you is just a theory, and we truly don't know how it all went down, and we probably won't until the trial. It sounds like there's a lot more information behind the scenes. I guess police are being pretty tight-lipped with this case, so that makes me think that there might be a ton more. So I'm very curious to see if it will be revealed at trial and see how all of this plays out. I also do want to mention that we don't yet know Juliana's sentence, and we won't know until after Brendan's trial. They want to make sure that Juliana follows through on her end of the deal, which is testifying against Brendan. But at this point, that's all the information we know so far. This is one that I've been following since literally the very beginning. I almost covered it months ago, but there was just such scattered information that I didn't feel comfortable sharing the story until we had a clearer picture. And at this point, I think we know enough to at least form opinions about what we think happened. I do personally think that Brendan wanted to get Christine out of the picture for a long time. I think he and Juliana plotted together, yes, but I do think there was an element of manipulation involved. Juliana is a 22-year-old living in a foreign country, living with a family who house her, feed her, pay her. She was in a relatively vulnerable position to be taken advantage of by an adult who pretty much controlled every aspect of her life. I do personally think he came on to her and she fell for him. And in the process, this whole idea got brought up. And I think Brendan made Juliana feel like they'd be in it together, like they'd be stuck together no matter what happened. But I think he was secretly planning on making it all look like Juliana's doing if it went wrong. However, obviously, Juliana is an adult, and she is smart enough to know that you can't just kill two innocent people to make your life more convenient. So I'm not placing the blame solely on Brendan here. I do think he is the main player here. I do think there is an element of manipulation, but obviously Juliana took part in this, and I do think that charges of manslaughter are pretty mild for what she actually did. That being said, I think Brendan planted this idea early on, making Juliana feel more and more like getting Christine out of the picture was the only way, so she agreed to do this. I think they lured Joseph over to make it look like a self-defense claim or like they were saving Christine, just as Juliana stated. But either way, after luring Joseph into the home, I think that he shot Joseph once, and then Juliana shot him once as well because she admitted to that. And then I think Brendan probably stabbed his wife. I think they then posed the bodies, got themselves all cleaned off, and then called police. Obviously, Juliana put on an act for investigators to tell her story. But I don't think it was all acting. I do actually think she was pretty panicked at the time, because how could you not be after taking part in a double murder like this? I do think like the panic and like how much she was freaking out was real. But again, why she was freaked out and panicked, different story than what she was telling. Either way, that's how I think it all went down. And I do think that Juliana was smart enough to get ahead of this as soon as Brendan was arrested. I do think he would have turned on her. In fact, I'm pretty confident that he would. And I think she knew that too. As of right now, Brendan faces 25 to life for the murder, while Juliana faces up to 10 years for her manslaughter charges, though she could be facing as little as time served by the time the trial is over. I also think that they're only being charged with Joseph's murder right now because they may not have the evidence yet to prove that Brendan stabbed Christine. Hopefully that information comes out during the trial as well, but as of right now, I feel like if they did have any evidence of that, he would have at least been charged. Maybe they're working on it more, maybe they'll add the other charge later because it has only been a couple weeks, but either way, hopefully he does have to take responsibility for both murders if he is responsible for both of them, which I think he is. But with all of that being said, that is all I have for today's video. Obviously, Christine didn't deserve this, and neither did Joseph. I think it's really disgusting that anyone could be so callous as to be okay with not just murdering two people, but to ruin the reputation of one of them. Being accused of murdering someone and then not even having the right to defend yourself is horrific, and I really hope that they're able to clear Joseph's name if he is in fact innocent in all of this, which for the record, again, I think he is. I don't think he went there to kill Christine. I think he went there to have sex with her. I also don't think Christine knew about any of this. I think she might have been naked because that is how Brendan timed it. Maybe she was coming out of the shower or something. Maybe she was undressed after the attack to make the story more believable. Either way, I don't think it was her messaging Joseph. I do think it was Brendan and Juliana, and I do think they're both responsible for both murders, and I hope we find out everything we need to know at the trial. But now I want to know what you all think. What do you think's really going on here? Do you believe Brendan's original story, or do you think that Brendan wanted Christine out of the picture so he could be with Juliana? Do you think they're both equally responsible for what happened to Christine and Joseph, or do you think Brendan manipulated Juliana? Let's discuss this and any other thoughts you have in the comments below. If you like this video, please make sure to go ahead and leave this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I put out new true crime and mystery videos every single week. Don't forget to turn those notification bells to on so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. Make sure to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. All will be linked down below. And if you have any case suggestions, please make sure to fill out the Google form, which is also listed down below. With that, I hope you guys have an amazing week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.